Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the Las Vegas Raiders and what to expect from their offense next season. Before we get started though, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, let's dive right into the video and I hope you enjoy. Before we get started talking about their offense next season, let's talk about their offense last season. Derek Carr led the way with 4,100 passing yards. Rushing the ball was Josh Jacobs' game, over 1,000 rushing yards, and then Darren Waller had over 1,100 receiving yards, 4 shy of 1,200 receiving yards at 1,196. But now, though, let's talk about where they ranked compared to other teams in the league. And this offense actually was pretty solid throughout the season. If we look at their total offense, that's points per game, they were number 10 in total offense, team offense-wise. Passing offense, the Raiders were number 7 in, and running the ball, they were a little bit lower in that regard, 14th in the league in that regard. So they were a top 10 offense last year. However, I think next year we'll see some regression from them just because of the offensive line and some of those offensive line issues. But I still think that this team can be a top 16 offense next year, but I really see them as more somewhere into that 15 to 20 range, 14 to 20 range probably, compared to the other offenses in the league. Last year I would have probably had them, at 9 or 10, maybe 11 in the league, but I think this year we're going to see some regression. We'll talk about why in just a sec. However, Derek Carr, I absolutely love Derek Carr at quarterback. I think that he does a lot for this Raiders team that goes really unnoticed. He's a guy who does not get talked about enough, and when he gets talked about, it's always in a negative connotation. It's never in a good, positive connotation. I did make a Derek Carr film session video just a few weeks ago, actually more than a few weeks ago, it was a few months ago at this point, where I talked about why I think that he's not bad, and I think I talked about why I think that he actually is a franchise-capable quarterback. 4,100 receiving yards, 4,100 passing yards last year, 27 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, a 71.0 QBR. Also, completion percentage was 67.3%, which was above from his career average. But this is a guy that has been in Las Vegas / Oakland for a while now with the Raiders. And at the end of the day, he's a guy that picked up originally in the second round back in 2014, has played with the Raiders his entire career, and sure, he hasn't had that much playoff success, hasn't really had any playoff success, to be honest, but he's been a consistent and solid quarterback for this Raiders team. It's just, who can they get around him? I think that the real thing for Carr is, he's got the running game going there in Las Vegas. He definitely has some solid running backs. Throwing the ball, too. I mean, he's going to be able to throw the ball. I don't love the receivers, but Darren Waller is Darren Waller, and they've got some speed at receiver. They added a few guys on the outside, guys like Trent Brown, who I think can be effective difference makers. But overall, I mean, Carr, if he's able to do what he did last year, if he puts up that same stat line, then this Raiders offense will be fine. It's just, who's he going to be throwing the ball to? I don't love Henry Ruggs. I don't love Jon Brown. I don't love some of the other guys they have on that roster. I do love Darren Waller, but overall, I just think that, Carr... I think Carr can put up 38 to 4,200 passing yards and put up similar touchdown and interception numbers. But I just think that, it's going to be a little bit harder next year, especially with some of that offensive line gone. Rodney Hudson no longer there, as well as their right tackle Trent Brown and their former right guard and Gabe Jackson, who are all no longer with the team. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Derek Carr, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be a solid quarterback, but I don't know if he's going to do enough to really make sure this Raiders offense can move forward. Josh Jacobs, though, in the running game, we saw him last year kind of struggle, to be honest. 1,000 rushing yards you see is good. You see 12 rushing touchdowns, you get excited. But 3.9 average yards per carry. I mean, this guy had the 3rd most rushing attempts out of anyone in the league and the 8th most rushing yards, but the 43rd most average yards per carry. He was not effective running the football. He looked a little bit slower. He didn't look as dynamic, didn't look as explosive as before. And I don't know if that was because of injuries. He didn't play the entire season, I believe. I think he was injured in a few games, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. Let me just check that in the stats bit here if my computer wants to load. He didn't play in every game. He missed one game. But overall, I mean, he was still productive. 12 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. Those are all really good signs for Josh Jacobs, and I'm sure he'll be able to bounce back a little bit. I don't know about, the guys he's running behind, but I think he can definitely be over 4 yards per carry. That shouldn't be hard for him. They also did bring in Kenyan Drake, too, as another running back that can really push this Raiders offense. I think we'll see a lot of 2 running back sets in that situation because of Kenyan Drake's ability to catch the ball in the backfield, just like Josh Jacobs. They can both catch the ball in the backfield really well, but they also have the ability to be 1,000-yard rushers. And I see maybe we see an offense that's much more toned in on the running game. Maybe an offense kind of like Cleveland, where they have two capable 1,000-yard running backs. And although Kenyan Drake isn't as dynamic as Kareem Hunt is in the passing game, Drake can still get it done as a pass catcher. And Josh Jacobs can get it done as that downhill runner. So maybe we see something like that. But I really like the two solid running backs and the two really high-end running backs for this Raiders offense. Kenyan Drake has the ability to be a top 15 running back in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is a top 10 running back in the NFL when healthy and when playing well. He's got that capability. So overall, I think the running game will be strong for this Raiders team, although the offensive line isn't that great. I mean, Kolton Miller at left tackle, I really like. Richie Incognito at left guard can be a good run blocker. I'm not going to get into this offensive line quite yet, but I still think that, running the ball wise, I think that they'll be able to run the ball effectively just because they've got really good running backs, and those running backs are going to be able to create space for themselves, even if that offensive line can't. Wide receiver wise is where I'm a little bit, I'm concerned. I really am. I don't like Henry Ruggs. We saw him last year. He was injured for a large part of the year, but even then, still managed 26 catches, 452 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, 17.4 average yards per reception. This guy's a burner. He utilizes his speed to take the top off a defense. He utilizes his speed across the middle of the field to just really extend plays and be a yards after the catch guy. But really, his speed is what allows for this Raiders offense to open up. He opens a lot of things up with his speed, and that's going to be something helpful. Also, they brought in, remember, Jon Brown this offseason. He's a guy who utilizes his speed well, too. And then Hunter Renfrow is that traditional slot receiver, yards after the catch, possession catch receiver that can be really effective as a pass catcher, making sure that he can extend plays with his legs after catching the ball. He's a smart football player. I actually think that this could be a big season for Bryan Edwards. I really like Bryan Edwards a lot. I was talking about him last year coming out of the draft. I think that he's an athletic weapon, and I think that maybe this is an opportunity for him to be a really effective red zone guy, because Henry Ruggs, Jon Brown, and Hunter Renfrow, none of those guys are real red zone receivers. None of them are big, tall, strong. That's Bryan Edwards. That could also be Zay Jones too. So look for them to maybe have some effect in the red zone. I think this Raiders offense at wide receiver is very deep, but they don't have any high-end guys. Ruggs, I don't really see. I've never liked Ruggs, to be honest. Jon Brown, I mean, he can be a fine wide receiver too. He has the capability of putting up 1,000 yards, but that's not really him anymore. Hunter Renfrow, yards after the catch, possession catch, third down receiver. So I don't really see any 1,000-yard receivers on this team. Waller, I guess, would be your 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, arguably he's the second best tight end in the entire league. He's in that conversation with George Kittle and Travis Kelce. I personally see him as the third best tight end in the league after those two guys. But fourth in the league in receptions, 107 receptions last year for a tight end. That's absolutely ludicrous. Just shy of 1,200 receiving yards, 10th in the NFL, and tied for 10th in the NFL with touchdowns, with 9 receiving touchdowns. He was absolutely phenomenal last year. And what he was able to do catching the football was really take this Raiders team on his back. I mean, he had a quarter of Derek Carr's passing yards. Just take that in for a sec. He had a quarter of the 4,000 passing yards that Derek Carr had. So overall, I really like what Darren Waller brings to this team. He brings his athleticism, his speed, his size. He's also not a bad run blocker too. So he's an overall athletic tight end. And at age 28, he's going to be going into his age 28. He's going to turn 29 during the season. Actually, no, he's going to be going into his age 29 season this year. I think that he's going to be that number one guy. So it's really, if Waller can get to 1,000 yards, how many yards can Jon Brown put up? How many yards can Henry Ruggs put up? How many yards can Hunter Renfrow put up? If they can all put up around 750 yards, then I think that this Raiders offense will be fine. But I mean, I just don't see that how they're going to able to keep up, especially with that offensive line. So I talked about Kolton Miller earlier. I think Kolton Miller, I mean, obviously he re-signed with the Raiders an extension for the next few years. Really good left tackle. Has blossomed into one of the better left tackles. Underrated too in the league. Is he top 10? Probably not, but top 12, top 15, absolutely. Richie Incognito can still play at this point in his career. I don't really like talking about Richie Incognito as a Dolphins fan. I think that, obviously the whole bullying thing, and sure, he might be past that, but I just, since then, I think, he's played Pro Bowl caliber football, but at this point in his career, he's definitely on the older side, and he's not going to be as good anymore. Andre James at center, that's terrible, really terrible after, giving up on Rodney Hudson. And I understand that this right side of this offensive line was being overpaid, and they were also not exactly healthy. But at the same time, they were 3 of their best offensive players and a huge part of the run game and pass game. for them. Denzelle Good is not better than Gabe Jackson. That's a downgrade. And Alex Leatherwood at right tackle was a reach in the first round. And although I do like him as a run blocker, as a pass protector, he got abused last year. And I think that him versus Trent Brown, that's a big difference. So I think that the running game and the passing game is really going to take a big hit from this offensive line. And although Derek Carr, I still think, can put up 4,000 yards, and I still think that Darren Waller can be productive, Derek Carr is going to have to get the ball out quickly, and I don't like that. I like when he's able to have a little time back there in the pocket. I don't trust that right side of that offensive line whatsoever, so I think the run game is going to falter from that. I think the passing game is going to falter from that, and for those reasons, although the Raiders were a top 10 offense from last year, and they didn't really lose that many guys, skill position players, that offensive line, not having those three starters on the right side of that offensive line, from Rodney Hudson and Gabe Jackson and Trent Brown, I think that's really going to hurt a lot next season. So with that said, I think I see this offense as somewhere in between the 14 and 20 range when it comes to offenses in the NFL, and I think that they'll end up missing the playoffs just because they don't have a super great wide receiving core. Just with that top end talent, they don't really have that, and that right side of that offensive line really concerns me for next season. Although I still think Derek Carr will be good and end up and at the end of the day, all the blame is going to end up on Derek Carr anyway, because that's seemingly what happens every year. Although that's really not fair because I think Derek Carr is a really talented quarterback. So with that said, I think Derek Carr will play well, still get the blame, and the Raiders offense will finish somewhere between 14th and 20th next season. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.